live edition of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, it has been a very long time since we've been live, but thank you for coming through to episode 300. Yes, the free agency frenzy edition of the Purple Rain podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain podcast. Follow this guy right here
Yeah.
on Instagram or on X at Sutton Def. Me, Instagram simply as10.prod or X at simply as10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go on there, use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. Man, oh man, it is good to be back. We have a lot to talk about. A lot has happened since we've last talked live face to face, but I'm ready for it all. But how have you been, Sutton? Let them know how you're doing.
Man, I have been doing great. I know like you told me before we went on air, you're a little bit under the weather right now.
Yeah,
Guess what? Our guy Simply AS10 is still here. He's still ready to talk free agency, man, and this is
ready.
why we love our guy, man. So, big shout out to our guy Simply AS10. First of all, round of applause for him.
Oh,
Episode 300, he's back. We're back. You know what I mean? Round of applause. You know what it is, man. The Rain Gang is in here as well. Let's go see who the Rain Gang is or who's here from the Rain Gang. RJ Horry in the house. It's been a while, guys, but I'm glad to catch a live. What's going on, RJ? Appreciate you for coming through. Iko Kage in the house. This was good, PRP, and everyone. Majin Bull is here as well. All of you are here. Let us know if you are here in the chat. Sound off. We would love to shout you out. But you asked me how I'm doing, man. I'm doing great. You know, this is the time of year, early March Madness, when it comes to college basketball, most notably the NFL, as regards to this channel. A whole lot of news, a whole lot of information, just like literally a shitstorm. Excuse my language of information coming out within the past week. So excited to talk about it. Of course, we got a bunch of things here from the Ravens and then the rest of the AFC North as well. But we do have over 72 people watching live right now. Thank
oh
y'all so
wow.
much for joining this
Wow.
episode of the show already. Make sure you like the video if you're watching over here on YouTube. If you're watching on X, hello. Appreciate you for coming through. Make sure you maybe pop over to YouTube whenever you get a chance. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram or Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. You can follow my guy Simply AS10 over here on Twitter at Simply AS10 or Instagram simply as10.prod. And then pretty much just anywhere at simply as10. You guys know where to find this guy, man. So listen, at this time, let's just go ahead and hop right into it, man. I mean, there's so much information. We want to try to get through all of it here on this episode. So let's go ahead and start out with this, right? So on Saturday, I am out and about with my lady and some of our neighbors, right? We're going out to a little function. And I see this notification come across my phone, right? And it's news. Lo and behold, the Ravens finalized the deal with left tackle Ronnie Stanley to come back to Baltimore for 3 more years, $60 million with $44 million guaranteed. Now, listen, on the last episode of the show, I don't know if you guys watched it. I said that all roads and signs point towards the Ravens getting a deal with Ronnie Stanley, specifically before the free agency market officially opens or the tampering period, whatever you want to call it. And it happened. You know, I do think that the $20 million a year is a slight overpay from what the Ravens would have wanted to kind of end up with, right? That's just my perspective here. Alex, I want to get your take on it, but I think that the Ravens left the table, and this is how you know it was a good deal, right? This is how you know it was a good deal. It's a good deal when everybody gains something, but also everybody loses something in the deal, both parties, right? And I feel like the Ravens didn't necessarily want to pay $20 million plus for Ronnie Stanley per year, especially considering all the other signings that we have to make in the upcoming years, which is Zay Flowers, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, et cetera, right? And at the same time, Ronnie Stanley could have very well went somewhere else and got like 24, 25 million a year. You know, so he lost a little bit too. But he chose the continuity to stay in Baltimore, which I think is personally, a good choice. And I'm damn sure happy about it. I will say that. But Alex, I want to get your take, and if you're watching live right now, let us know down below Do you think that the Ravens got the better of the deal, or do you think Ronnie Stanley got the better of the deal with this new 3 year, $60 million contract? So let me know what you think.
Yeah, I said I think last episode 19 to 20 mil a year was probably the best. And I would be cool with paying that, and I am. And it's known that he left a lot of money on the table, 4 to 5 million a year annually. When you're looking at what the guys are getting now, today throughout the free agency period, and I'm right there with
Yeah.
you. A little bit of overpay of what you wanted to pay, considering his last contract, basically the same thing as 5 years, 100 mil, 20 per year. You're paying him the same amount. That was before the ankle, I word, and all that, and you don't want to pay it, but you unfortunately have to. And I'm glad we got it done because that's just one less question mark on this line. And that's kind of my main focus this year, this offseason, is the trenches, both offensive and defensive. Because I don't trust our guards. I still don't. I do trust our tackles and I trust our center. So I'm very happy that we got it done. I'm right there with you. And it is a good deal all around. He's getting paid. We're getting our left tackle back. And we now are able to focus on more issues maybe through free agency or through the draft. But as of right now, man, the contracts that are going off the board, we'll talk about them. They are we just can't match them with our cap space, unfortunately. I mean, guys are getting overpaid left and right, and thankfully, I don't think we overpaid in this market
Yeah.
for Ronnie Stanley. To be completely honest.
Okay. And I get that. I totally do get that. I think that from the Ravens' perspective, they would have rather have
Yeah.
not paid $20 million for Ronnie Stanley. Maybe just a couple billion underneath that, just to give them a little bit more wiggle room in free agency with the draft, of course, all of those things, or restructuring deals, all those things. But at the end of the day, I do think that it is a net positive for the Ravens to go ahead and get Ronnie Stanley back in the fold for the next 3 seasons, man. I mean, because you think about it, the offensive line and the defensive line were two of the most highlighted position groups, in the Super Bowl, and especially even the playoffs as well. Just how important it is to have those trenches shored up, and this is the first move towards doing that for the Ravens this offseason. Of course, there's still things to talk about when it comes to guard. We'll talk about the departure of Patrick McCarry a little bit later on the show. But before we get anything, we do have over 100 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for joining this
Thank you.
episode 300 of the Purple Rain podcast. That's right, episode 300
Yes.
Purple Rain podcast. Appreciate
Freaking
each and every one of y'all for coming through, man. It's been a hell of a journey, and we are here. We're here to stay. We're here today. But we do some super chat donations to get to. This one's coming from Majin Bull. What's going on, Majin Bull? Appreciate you for coming through. Appreciate the $5 super chat donations. We always say, quote unquote, no money, as if preparing to have adequate resources to fill holes the roster has always had. O-line, edge, usually wide receiver, last part of EDC's job. Uh,
Real quick,
yeah. What are you thinking about this? Yeah.
the Rams are going to release Cooper Kupp on Wednesday if they can't find a trade partner.
Ooh. They're coming right out and saying
So
it.
we can talk about that later. But real quick. Yeah, and it does suck with the whole no money thing because I would love to get, a guard out there or maybe get another cornerback because I think it was a pretty deep class for defensive backs out there. But just you kind of look back at some of the contracts we've given out and like, are they worth it? I see you say Mekhi Becton. I would love to get him last year. Why couldn't we get him for a 1 year deal? I would love to take advantage of some of those guys. And unfortunately, his hits haven't been all the way there free agency wise, and neither have the drafting. And that's kind of been a critic we've all been saying. Trade a couple of them picks to go up and get somebody that will be a day one contributor. Give a couple picks for a guy who can come in here and really make an impact. We haven't seen that. And I would love to be, the Ravens making a move. And unfortunately, I feel like we've had to just sit back and say, you know what, that's not the Raven way. And we've kind of accepted it. Is it the right way? I mean, we haven't seen a Super Bowl in, 13 years. So maybe it isn't the right way, but not to sit back and look at the Eagles, who obviously just won the Super Bowl. They held on to their own. The Chiefs made a couple of signings, but they had to free up cap by trading Joe Tooney, an all-pro guard. So as for, free agency now, I think we'll make moves later this week. We'll go dumpster diving, like I like to say, but that's just where it is. And thankfully this year, I mean, I don't expect us re-signing. We got our main target out the way. I would have rather, re-sign Stanley than let him walk and sign, Stevens and McCarry back, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. We also have another super chat donation. This one's coming from Majin Bull again. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you for supporting the channel. Says if the Ravens start If the Ravens starters at guard, especially right guard, are guys who are currently on the roster, then no one should pretend they are serious about a Super Bowl run.
I agree.
I agree with this to a degree, right? Because at this point, I think we're all looking at that right guard spot. We're looking at Daniel Falele. Um, we're looking and asking like, hey, is the job Daniel Falele's to lose? And I think if you ask that question to the Ravens coaching staff, John Harbaugh and the like, they say yes, right? It's his job to lose at this point. And to me, I don't necessarily have the hugest problem with that because we did see improvement. We did see strides being made from Daniel Falele. I don't want to sit up here and be disingenuous and act like he was just ass all season. In that first half of the season, especially like that first quarter of the season, were there spots where it was just like get the guy off the roster. Yes, absolutely. I agree. But at the same time, Daniel Falele, he did improve, right? And if you look at some of his analytical scores and performance grades from sites like PFF, even ESPN, it shows the proof is in the pudding that the guy was not terrible for all of last year. He was not terrible. He was actually very very serviceable, and so I think that right now the job is his to lose. Now left guard spot. We don't know if it's going to be Andrew Voorhees' job to lose, or if we're going to go out and we're going to draft a guard. I'm sure we will, just to be able to compete with him. And I think that's honestly the right move, right? I think it's the right move at this specific point in time, Ravens. But yeah, man, you do have to get that offensive line shirt up. The first step of it was re-signing Ronnie Stanley. We did that. Now it's time to go ahead and aggressively attack that guard spot, whether that be in free agency or if the Ravens go ahead and address that early in the draft. We will see. We will see. But thank you again so much for your super
Yeah,
chat
thank you.
donation, Maj and Bull. We truly, truly do appreciate you. We have another one. Was coming from the Don C. What's going on, man? A Purple Rain pioneer himself, a member here on the channel. What's going on, man? Don, we always appreciate you. It's Alex Sutton and the best mods on YouTube. What's up, guys? The draft is wide open after locking up Stanley.
Yep.
It should be fun. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. Like for a draft, we can go corner, guard, tackle, edge. I don't really know what the biggest need is. I probably still say guard. I would love to maybe get a guard or a tackle who could shift in there and play guard, and maybe if we were have to move and on from Stanley a couple years down, you can shift him and tackle, and then who knows. But I definitely think that it's wide open now for the first round pick. Instead of if we were to get rid of Stanley or if we didn't re-sign Stanley, oh, it's 100% a tackle or a guard. Now it's a little bit wide open, but yeah, draft time should be fun. But right now, man, focusing on this free agency and seeing where we can make a splash. I think Cooper Cup getting released, that's kind of something I might be keeping my eye on. Still Stephon Diggs, I'm keeping my eye on, coming off of that I word, torn ACL. And then obviously, a couple of guards and DBs, but we'll get into that, Thursday. And we still see more guys start getting released and we see them come off the board.
Yeah. Yeah. So news just came in. The Dolphins are signing QB Zach Wilson uh back up to Tua Tagovailoa now.
Not
So
bad.
news there. Not bad. Right.
I
A
don't hate it.
little possibly even a little competition. You never know. I mean, Tua, he's sometimes he's in and he's out. I think Zach Wilson will definitely get his shot. He'll definitely get his shot to play. But yeah, moving right along here. So we talked about the offensive line, of course. Ronnie Stanley getting that very, very lucrative deal for him. 3 years, $60 million. I think $44 million guaranteed. He got paid.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Ravens have a little bit of leverage now going into the rest of this free agency period and then also the draft in terms of what they want to do. I think that as it stands right now, and let's talk about this really quick. And I want everybody who's watching live right now. We got over 140 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for doing this episode of the show. Whether you're watching on X or YouTube, I need you to answer this question. What are the current top 3 needs from the draft, position-wise, for the Ravens? I'm going to go to my guy Alex first. I need you to rank them in order from 1 to 3. Where do you think we are right now? You give yours first. I'll give mine, and then I want the Rain Gang to give theirs in the chat, and we'll talk about that too.
I'm going to go guard. I'm going to go
Mm.
DB. No, I'll go edge then DB. Yeah, guard, edge,
I was about to
DB.
say, how could you not put edge rusher in there, Alex?
Well, I was just thinking, the recent pickups in the north, and then us losing Stevens. We do need another cornerback, but I'll go edge, and then I'll go DB. I think you can get a good edge out there. There's some good edge guys still left out there. 6 hours into this free agency period, and I think we can grab one of them. So yeah, I'll go guard, edge, DB.
Guard, edge, and DB. Okay. Okay.
Kickers in my top
See,
five, by the way. I'm gonna let you know that right now. Kickers top five.
in the top 5,
Yeah,
you're trying to find a long-term kicker of the future. Obviously, I mean, which I respect. I like it. I like it. I feel like there are slightly more pressing needs, right? I feel like we can get a kicker, whether that be out of free agency or somewhere that is serviceable, at least one that who we know is not going to have a case of the yips, right? Jitters walking out into the field because he knows that there's like a shitstorm of
yeah.
media related things on the way. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. But I do think that with this current Ravens philosophy, like draft philosophy under the tenure of Eric DeCosta, obviously he likes to stockpile his draft picks, right? He likes to use as many of his draft picks as possible. He likes to compile as many compensatory picks as possible, which I believe the Ravens are getting 2 compensatory 5th-round picks for next season for getting rid of Brandon Stevens and Patrick McCary. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think underneath this current philosophy, Eric Costa and this Ravens team, they really, really do want to, or at least I think it would be in their best interest, try to get the best return on investment out of some of their previous draft picks. And when I'm talking about Andrew Voorhees here, right? Andrew Voorhees is a guy who like drafted in the 10th round. Get some return on investment out of him. If you can get, it makes it that much more genius, that much better of a pick for a 7th-round left guard to come in and actually be the serviceable starter for you instead of going out and spending big money elsewhere. Because if that's what's going to happen, we're going to go out and we're going to spend money on a left guard, or if we're going to use more draft capital on a left guard. Why do we compile so many picks, right? None of these guys or a large amount of these guys are not going to make the starting roster. You look like you got something for me. You got something for me?
Malik Harrison, 2-year, $10 million to the Steelers.
Oh, see, these
Bro,
Steelers, man. These Steelers, man.
cool.
Man, it's cool,
Cool.
right? Cool, right?
Like
Like I'm not over here. I'm not mad. I'm not. It's just like if it's to anybody, like the Steelers,
it's
like first Patrick Queen,
it's kind of corny.
right?
It's getting to be, man. They took a lot of our guys last year. Deshaun,
Yeah.
Patrick Queen. They took oh, we had the one edge rush, Jeremiah Moon, not Malik Harrison.
Yes. Like what is going on? What is going on, Steelers? Are y'all okay? Pittsburgh fans, if y'all are watching right now, are y'all okay? Like, what is the deal? Like, what is the deal with y'all trying to poach all of our players?
Yeah.
I'm a Ravens fan. I'm gonna talk my shit for a second, man. I mean, like, y'all can talk all this crap about the Ravens, right? But at the end of the day, y'all are going out and scouting and poaching our players. So I mean, I'm not guy Boz when we have a chance. I mean, my Boz is a Steelers fan, very respected member of this community here at the Rain Gang. But I want to hear from him on this one. Maybe pop through a little bit later. But yeah, that is definitely. But what I was saying is like, if Eric DeCosta loves his draft picks so much, you have to start hitting on some of these later round picks. And Andrew Voorhees is one of those guys. Like, I mean, like, look at it as like if we drafted Andrew Voorhees this year, right? We would want him to step in there and actually make an impact, And he had his moment last year. He had some good moments, some down moments, some ups and downs, right? But I just think that Andrew Voorhees has to be his job to lose, right? And of course he's got to show up, he's got to perform, training camp, mini camp, all that stuff, but it's got to be his job to lose. Otherwise, I don't know what we're doing, stockpiling all these draft picks. I just don't know. So let me see what you guys are saying here in terms of the priorities of draft needs position wise in the chat. I think I saw one. My guy Don C mentioned here. He says corner, edge, guard, or tackle. So I'm definitely okay with this. I like this. I would just flip the corner and the edge. I would. And I know losing Brandon Stevens leaves a need for it, right? But I do think that something in me tells me that the Ravens are going to address cornerback in free agency some way, somehow. I think that drafting an edge rusher, a young studded edge rusher, and we'll talk about the names in probably another episode. Maybe when we get Jason on, right? But if we can get an edge rusher out of the draft, I would be so satisfied with that. For me, it goes edge number one. You guys know how I feel about edge rusher. It is a premium position in this National Football League, right? If you cannot get the opposing team's quarterback on the ground, then you're probably going to lose a lot of games, especially if you don't have a high powered offense. And that gets even more prevalent in the playoffs. So it's going to be edge for me. And then I would say offensive line, offensive line, guard maybe, or corner. For me, guard and corner are a little bit interchangeable for that second pick. But for me, that first pick has got to be edge rusher. It's got to be edge rusher. You got to get some young talent there. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, maybe, we can go out, we can get like a Von Miller, right? We can get like a Zadarius Smith, revive one of those careers. But Alex, what do you think about Von Miller or Zadarius Smith, bringing them in edge rushers?
I'm not really feeling the Von Miller, and I think Zadarius Smith kind of burned his bridge to Baltimore, unfortunately. Um, with the whole how he backed out, went to the Vikings a couple of years ago. I don't think that sat well with the Ravens. I'm not saying you can't move past it. I just don't think we're gonna go on back to it. I know Joey Bosa's name. People have been talking about that. And some other guys as well, Edge, that have been brought up. I'll have to pull up the free agent list, guys. But I think, we can sign one of them and then draft a guy first, second round. I'd be all for it. Now, will they be there 27? Not too sure. And now this is where it kind of comes in. Hey, trade one of your fourth round comp picks and your first round pick to move up maybe two spots, or trade some picks, to move up a couple of spots to get a guy, that can come in and be starting day one. And that's, we haven't seen that since, I guess, the whole Hollywood. When we traded Hollywood for a first runner, even going back, we traded back in to get Lamar. We don't really trade up that much.
Yeah, yeah. And I was looking at something a little bit earlier today. The Ravens have the 27th pick overall, and the Houston Texans, who just actually traded Laramie Tunsil, left tackle, star left tackle, to the Commanders. They also have a needed left guard as well, so their entire left side of the line needs help. And what it's looking like right now is that they're probably going to go with that 25th pick and draft either a left tackle or a left guard, maybe like a Tyler Booker out of Alabama, somebody like that. So it puts the Ravens in a very peculiar position at 27 in what they want to do. I think that you make a very valid point in saying that, hey, look, like let's compile, let's put some of these picks together, let's get some other resources, and let's try to move up a little bit here so we have a little bit more breathing room and get the guy that we actually want in the first round. I think the first round is going to be crucial this season of this draft for the Ravens. So with the Texans making that move today and kind of making more of a need so that on the left side of their line, that should give the Ravens all the more incentive and all the more want to move up in the draft and take that they really really want. Because I know there's a guy that EDC is really really looking at,
Yeah.
whether that be an offensive lineman of some sort or an edge rusher. There's a guy he's really really looking at. If a guy like maybe like James Pierce, the edge rusher, is not available at around 27, we're going to be in a tough spot. It might just come down to whatever best player is available at that point, especially if the Texans end up taking, a Tyler Booker or somebody like that. So it's Ravens are in a very peculiar spot. Again, they have some more work to do. This is only the very, very beginning. But let's go ahead and continue here. Boz, what up, boy? What's going on? Boz, you got to tell me. Boz, let me know in the chat, bro. Bro, let me know. Why does your team continue to poach our players, bro? Like my guy Alex said, Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen, and now Malik Harrison. I mean,
Yeah.
what's going on, boss? Let me
Yeah.
know. Let me know. Love you, bro. Appreciate you for coming through as always. That's another true purple pioneer himself, Boz, in the chat. Always W's for him, man. Chike says edge 1000% as what he would draft first. Totally understand, man. I'm right there with you, Chike. I'm totally right there with you. Okay, let's go ahead and move right along here, shall we?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and move along to our next topic, which is going to be Brandon Stevens.
Mm,
Brandon Stevens
mm.
departs the Baltimore Ravens and he signs with the New York Jets. 3 years, $36 million, $23 million guaranteed. Brandon Stevens was a very polarizing figure in Baltimore this past season. After having such a great 2023 season, a lot of people were comfortable with him kind of emerging into that cornerback one role, even on this Ravens roster after the 2023 season. Then just for the 2024 season to be the total opposite of that. It's just I think only one other corner in the league gave up more receiving yards than Brandon Stevens this past season. And a big criticism for him was he could never get his head around. He was always in position, but just always still giving up that big play. Gave up a big one in the divisional round against the Bills. Um, so it's just this one I think is kind of like a sigh of relief for most
Yeah.
Ravens fans. I think it's time for Brandon Stevens to move on. I think it's kind of like an amicable separation here between the Ravens and Brandon Stevens, because Stevens, he goes out and he's getting a fresh start with New York, right? 3 years, 36 million. That's awesome for him. The Ravens get to move on from that kind of like what was a nightmarish season last year with Brandon Stevens at cornerback, and they get to try something else, or maybe bringing in like a Jair Alexander or somebody like that. Of course, maybe addressing it in the draft. But Alex, what was your overall thoughts, your knee jerk reaction to Brandon Stevens leaving the Ravens and signing with the New York Jets?
I was surprised it was that much money. If this was after 2023, maybe I understand. But man, they let go of DJ Reed and they kind of just signed Stevens for 12 mil less. Granted, who will be the defensive back two behind Sauce Gardner, which is cool and all, but maybe Aaron Glenn sees something in him that he thinks he can fix. Playing that position, maybe getting that head around. But I'm glad. A change of scenery probably was needed. He was probably tired of having Ravens fans on his rear end, you know, every single day. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
He's getting generational money. That's the biggest thing for him, and I hope it works out for him. But as for us, we now have a hole that we have to fill, and I think we can do better than him. No shade. I think we can get a guy, uh, free agent wise. If we trade for Jair, if they release him, because it might be that point because they just signed Nate Hobbs to a big contract, so they might just let go of
Right.
Jair and let him hit the market, or we can maybe draft somebody round one if they think that's the way to go. So it was coming. I don't think anybody expected us to re-sign Brandon Stevens. I know I didn't, and good for him. 23 mil guaranteed. It's a lot of money, Mr. Stevens. So enjoy New York. Enjoy Justin Fields, your new quarterback, and Sauce Gardner, your new cornerback running mate.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this is like one of those moves that it's good for everyone. Like the Ravens, they get to move on from that, and then Stevens, he gets the fresh start. So overall, a good move from the Ravens here. Let's see what you're saying. Jets are being the Jets. Good for B. Steve, says Don C.
Yeah.
Um, Kimberly says, "What's up, everybody? I'm disappointed in EDC. He does not have enough money in cap space for the NFL draft. Uh, can't know exactly what the number would be right now post Stanley deal and all the other things, all the other transactions where the Ravens currently stand with cap, and that there's moves that they are making quietly behind the scenes in terms of restructures, things like that, as we speak. But we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, yeah. So let's go ahead and move on from that one. I mean, Brandon Stevens, best of luck to you, right? Best of
Yeah.
luck to you.
Yeah.
Other one here, Patrick McCarry, and we kind of touched on this slightly earlier. Patrick McCarry signs with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's getting a 3-year deal worth $37.5 million, and over $20 million of those 37.5 guaranteed. So this is another one here where a lot of Ravens fans are happy about. Left guard Patrick McCarry. He was kind of like that plug and play piece on the offensive line for the greater part of 5 years, last 5 years with the Ravens. Um, you can kind of just put him anywhere. He had stints at guard, he had stints at tackle. I mean, you could just kind of put him anywhere, right? I think he even had a little stint at center too. Am I wrong about that? Yeah, he had a
He
little
did.
stint at center too. So literally everywhere on the offensive line, he kind of got some work in, and that's honestly probably the main reason why the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to bring him in, because he's kind of like a jack of all trades. He's not terrible at any of those positions, but he's certainly not, I would say, good, right, at any of those positions. He's just serviceable, just kind of toes the line right down the middle there. So his 3-year deal. This is another one where amicable separation from the Ravens, and good for him. I hope he succeeds with the Jacksonville Jaguars. What was your take on this? What was your reaction?
I was not expecting this amount of money for him, man. Like this is a lot for a guy who I thought played barely average. That's pushing it to times, but overall his stint as a Raven, like you said, I think it was a success. UDFA, came in, saved us. He had stints at right tackle when when Stanley went down in 2021, and then we had to move Villanueva to left tackle. He was right tackle. He definitely played guard a couple of times. Came in center when Matt Square tore his ACL in 2019. Was center in 2020. So all in all, like I can't be mad at this. You know, from being a UDFA to making 20 mil guaranteed, hats off to you. Another one, it was the right time to move on, and wasn't expecting to resign him, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. So good for him, man. Enjoy Jacksonville, enjoy that warm weather, and now we'll probably get another Macari as UDFA, and he'll make his way. Same thing. He'll come in when somebody goes down, make a name for himself, and the cycle will just go on over again.
Yeah. Yeah. The carousel continues, right? The carousel continues, goes round and round.
Yeah.
Carries off. Brandon Stevens hops off. Honestly, I'm liking the start to the new league year for the Baltimore Ravens so far. Getting Stanley back in the fold and having that side of the line, not necessarily locked down until we figure out what we're gonna do at left guard, but you have your staples still there. Stanley, Linderbaum, and I think one is definitely growing in Rosen as well. And Falele, again, we talked about it earlier. I think it is Falele's job to lose. So, spoiler alert, I do fully expect the Ravens to start the 2025-2026 season with Daniel Falele as the start at right guard. And, hopefully, all we can hope as Ravens that he continues to take strides at that position. Uh, so, moving on from that, that covers most of the things, or pretty much all the things, the transactions that the Ravens have made in the past couple of days here. So let's go ahead and continue this conversation with talks about the rest of the AFC North, because there's some things that happen in the rest of the division. So let's go ahead and start off with the biggest piece of news, right? That came out the other day. So Myles Garrett was a big name this offseason. Honestly, maybe one of probably the biggest name, right? In terms of, okay, where we're going to go. He's demanding a trade from Cleveland. He does not want to go back to Cleveland. Why? Because he wants to compete for a championship. And here we are finding out in recent days, he has re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. He's re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. And it was a ridiculous contract. Let me go ahead and bring it up here. Myles Garrett extended 4 years, $160 million with $123 million guaranteed. So this was honestly very funny to me, because a big thing for Myles Garrett was that, again, he wanted to contend for a championship. So he wanted to leave Cleveland. But now that they've offered him, what, $30 million a year, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL, that swayed his opinion a little bit, a lot of bit, right, on what he wanted to do in terms of career-wise. So it's just kind of funny. I wonder how all of that really went down. It was funny because a day, I think 24 hours before the deal got released, right, there was a story that came out about Myles Garrett wanting to request a meeting with the GM of the Browns, and the GM of the Browns declined that meeting, turned him down.
Yep.
And maybe that article that I saw was fake news. I don't know, but I feel like it was real. But then about 24 hours later, that he went ahead and inked the deal worth $30 million a year. It was just kind of hilarious to me. What was your knee jerk reaction to the Browns re-signing Myles Garrett?
I was surprised. I mean, the way he was talking about it, he wanted to go win. He thanked Cleveland for everything. They say no, you're not leaving, and they say we're gonna give you a big contract, and you're just gonna get used to losing, and you're gonna get paid. And you know what? I respect the hustle. I mean, you give me that much money to keep losing, I can't blame you. I really can't, because you're making a lot of money.
Oh my God.
You're making a whole lot of
Alex, terrible move though. It's a terrible move on the Browns' part. You think about it, because think about
money.
it this way. Think about if you go into the season. Think about you start the season 2-4, 2-5, and all of a sudden he's feeling the same way he was feeling during last season. Like, oh, I'm dejected. Like, we're not winning. Like, like, this isn't fun. Like, this is the game that I grew up playing. The game that I grew up loving. Right. We're 2-4 right now. We're 2 and whatever the record is. Right, a losing record. We're not winning games. Who's their quarterback right now? Kenny Pickett just went there, I heard. Kenny Pickett just went there. With Thompson Robinson going to the Eagles, I want to say, in a fair trade there. So it's just they're not a very unserious organization, right? They obviously don't want to win. He wants to win, but he also wants to make money, of course. Too. That's what a lot of this is all about for a lot of these players, which is totally understandable. But if you're the Browns, like, what do you really think you're going to get out of it? I mean, you basically give him hush money. You basically gave Miles Garrett $30 million a year worth of money. Like, hey, just shut up, play football. You know what I mean? We're not going to be winning. We know that. We're in a rebuilding era. Like, so we're just going to throw you a contract here just for you to stay. You know, and so we feel like we have something. We feel like we're contending with something. You know, but like as premium of a position that edge rusher, it is going to single handedly win you championships. What do you think?
Look who you're talking about. Do you expect it to make sense? It's the Cleveland Browns. They gave Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed. That's exactly why I'm like, good for him. If you're gonna, be upset, just make a whole lot of money doing it. And he's stuck there till 2030. Like, nobody told him to sign the contract. Like, I'm not gonna feel bad if he's like, oh well, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, you're making money and you signed the contract. Nobody told you to not sign it. And yeah, you're gonna. He said he was gonna like he was willing to sit out. So like, if you're willing to go that far to get out of there, like just stick with it. But oh well, I mean, good for him. He's making money, and hopefully the Browns are still bad in 2030. I don't expect them to be that much better. I still think they're going to be bad. They're going to be last in the AFC North. It's going to be the same old, same old. So, congrats to Miles Garrett. Congrats to the Garrett family. I am happy for them and them only. The Browns, oh well. Oh freaking well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there are some debts that Miles Garrett had to pay off,
Yeah.
some family members he's got to prop up in some way, shape, or form financially. I don't know. Maybe that was his motive behind signing this, but I don't really see I still don't see him being happy. And if a player is not happy, I don't know how much money he's making. You're not going to get the best performance out of him. Which is why I think that it was a lackluster decision indeed from the Cleveland Browns part because if a player wants out and he's publicly stated that he wants out multiple times, multiple interviews and whatnot, let him go and see what you can get for him. Like rip the Band-Aid off and just rebuild. You know what I mean? You've still got 10 years of Lamar Jackson, 10 years of Joe Burrow in this division. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no shame in just saying, like, okay, we're going to hit the reset button here. Right? We messed up on Deshaun Watson's contract. That's looking terrible right now. Let's not tie ourselves, to another long-term deal that's going to have us in cap hell. Like, let's just not do that. Let's just go ahead and just rebuild, retool, But I don't know. AFC North teams have a certain pride about them. They have a certain pride about them. The Bengals too. Bengals, y'all aren't off the hook. Y'all are not off the hook,
I
paying
have smoke for
everybody
every team.
except for your wide receiver 1 and 2 and your top edge rusher, paying everybody except them. Okay, you're not off the Steelers. You're
Idiots.
not off the hook either. Not off the hook.
Idiots.
You know
Idiots.
exactly. And Steelers are trying to just choose between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson right now. You're not off the hook. Just rip the Band-Aid off, man. I just don't understand.
Uh, you know, the Bengals, I'm starting with the Bengals. They're getting it first.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
They're getting it first. You've known Jamar Chase has won the contract for 2 years now. You've seen his running mate at LSU, Justin Jefferson, break the bank. That was your moment. That was your moment to give him a little bit more. The same way when Jalen Hurts broke it, Lamar got his. I know it was a long, they were
Yeah.
making fun of us, but we got Lamar done. And guess what? We'll give Lamar his contract. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a new contract this summer. I'll put it out there right now. It would not surprise me at all.
Same.
I hope we get it done. I hope Lamar gets a new contract. Do it before Mahomes gets his. But you are forcing T Higgins to stay there with these franchise tags. They're just disrespectful to him. By the way, he is better than a 1 year deal. I feel like you can't use a franchise tag for a player more than once. That should be a rule because it's just holding him hostage. Holding him hostage. Trey Hendrickson, 35 sacks in 2 years. He wants out because you won't pay him, but you go and pay Mike Gesicki $25 million. This guy, this guy with his little gritty gimmick. I mean, is he
Yeah.
even a top 10 tight end? With all due respect, I'm taking Mandrews and Likely over him. You know, so Bengals, they just this guy. You got Joe Burrow, a fantastic quarterback. How do you think he feels? Because both of his receivers are gonna be upset. Don't worry, he has Mike Gesicki. He has Mike Gesicki. 3 years. So Bengals. I mean, these franchises just never fail to just make me laugh. You're gonna let three
Yeah.
fantastic players walk eventually. because you don't want to pay them when the time is right. Open that checkbook. But I'm not complaining. Uh, I'll talk about the Steelers after that. But thank you for them for paying DK that much money because now that's they're gonna win a lot more than just that 30 mil per year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the receiver market is only going higher and higher and higher. And speaking of, like, let's just put wide receiver market aside. Let's just look at non-quarterback markets, right? The Bengals are on record basically coming out and saying that, hey, look, like Jamar Chase, we're going to make you the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League, right? And that price, since they've said that, has only gone up and up and up and up. It's only getting worse for them, right? It's only getting worse. With Miles Garrett now making 30 million a year, yeah, man, you're gonna have to pony up a lot more coins in order to keep Jamar Chase and franchise tagging T Higgins. You know he's not gonna be too happy about that. Of course, Burrow, he's there. I mean, the Bengals, you think about it, man, they are kind of like they're kind of like a poor franchise. You think about it, like they don't have all that much money. You know, they had to sell the rights to the stadium just to be able to afford Joe Burrow. Like it's just they're in a tough spot right now. They're not off the hook. They are not off the hook. For us Ravens fans though, good for us Ravens fans. Like you said, like you mentioned about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, they have no idea what they're going to do at quarterback. I've heard talks about them maybe going after a Jackson Dart in the draft. I've heard talks about them maybe just sticking with Russell Wilson, maybe going out and acquiring Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Justin Fields is now a New York Jet. They're in shambles. But hey, you got DK Metcalf, George Pickens, two hothead
Caleb's
wide receivers who both with the ball. You know what I mean? Who damn near might clash heads at some point. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see in regards to that. But DK Metcalf, DeKalin Zacharias Metcalf, was a guy who we sat up here on the last episode of the show. I'm not going to act like we didn't. And we said that the Ravens should have made some waves to go ahead and get him because, that would have been the perfect complementary piece to the rest of the wide receiving core that the Ravens have was Zay Flowers being a short, speedy receiver. Of course, Rashad Bateman being kind of like that intermediate size route running savant. And then bringing in like a big body, contested catch, bona fide X receiver, and maybe not the best route running, but just a physical specimen, right? Especially even in the blocking game too. In DK Metcalf, he is now a Steeler. I think that honestly, his play style, his attitude, really does fit the Steelers. And what I will say is this: I think that a coach like Mike Tomlin can really channel DK Metcalf and kind of like his energy into being even a greater player with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just need a quarterback. They need a quarterback, right? That's kind of what they're lacking right now. But what are your thoughts? A little bit deeper dive in your thoughts on the whole DK Metcalf to the Steelers thing.
I'm tired of the Steelers taking players I really, really like. Patrick Queen, DK
Mm.
Metcalf. All right. I don't know how to say this lightly. I'm not really moved. Hate to say it. I don't care. I kind of hope Russ or Aaron Rodgers goes there. They'll beat us once probably. I don't care. They still don't move me. It feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. They did. I'll go to this Darius Slay. They signed Pat Pete 2 years ago. How did that work out?
Yeah.
This Darius Slay guy
Mm.
at 34. Putting DK and Pickens together. They had to trade Deontay Johnson because I think Pickens was getting mad about his target. We saw Deontay and then we saw Pickens. Now Pickens and DK. Like, I feel bad for the receivers, coach. I do. And we're going to put Aaron Rodgers, the old hippie back there. Am I supposed to be scared of Aaron Rodgers in 2025? Genuinely. He's probably snorting coke somewhere in like Colorado. I'm not scared of
Ooh.
him. They can take Mr. Unlimited. I saw Mr. Unlimited in the playoffs in Baltimore in December and January. He was throwing balls out the side of the end zone because he couldn't make any throws. Like I'm genuinely not scared of what they like. It just this feels like their final dance, and it feels like the Jets all over again, and it's gonna blow up. I think I'm really not that moved.
Yeah.
I
I
just
mean, again,
I don't see it.
there's sort of this just inability, right? And just like they just don't want to accept that they're in a rebuild, right? And I can understand it if you're a Steelers fan, or if you're just the Steelers front office, because you compete damn near every year, right? Haven't had a losing season. You're making the playoffs, right? Just barely by the skin of your teeth in a lot of these scenarios, but making the playoffs, you're doing moderately well. But it's just like it gets to a point where, like, if you do not have the quarterback of the future, right, and you can just build around that comfortably, then you really don't have anything. You really don't have anything in this league. And I think that's where the Steelers are at right now. Especially, and I think that they need to kind of take like kind of like a reset year, you know, offload some of the contracts, you know, bring in some younger guys, some younger talent. Because bringing in some of these older guys and just relying on, and when I say older guys, I'm talking about these quarterbacks that they're bringing in. You know, Russell Wilson in 2025, that ain't it. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers in 2025, that ain't it. We just saw last year why that ain't it for both of those players, right? I mean, they're not going to lead your team to a Super Bowl in the same way that they would have done a decade ago. They're just not, you know. So I don't know, man. The Steelers have some soul searching to do. The Cleveland Browns have some soul searching to do. I mean, the Cleveland Browns are just,
Yeah.
I can
We're
only
not
imagine being
perfect.
a Cleveland fan, man. I
The
mean, we're
Ravens
not
aren't perfect.
perfect.
Don't
The
get me wrong.
Ravens are far from perfect. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel like, number one, investing $30 million a year into an edge rusher who has made it known that he does not want to be there because you guys don't know how to win. You guys are very unserious about winning. Just tell you all you need to know. Offload him. He's one of the best edge rushers probably of all time. You know, if we're just being honest here, one of the best edge rushers of all time. See what you can get for him and just go from there. You know, if you don't have the confidence in your GM, if you're the owner, you don't have the confidence in your GM to get whatever haul you get from Myles Garrett and turn that into something that sparks, you know, a positive run for the team, then just say that. Just say you don't have confidence in your GM. You know, but I don't know what's going on up top, upstairs with the Cleveland Browns. Boss says, "Who wants to win when you're making that much money?" Sure, sure, I get it, but you know, at what point is it really, really making a difference? You know, so let me
I
see.
want
There
to
was,
touch.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I want to
Sure.
touch back on the Steelers because I don't want to think I'm hating. Like I would love to have DK, but I'm just taking it back. Like there's really I think two people to blame on this, and I'm gonna praise the Ravens right now for what we did. I'm gonna blame Ben Roethlisberger and whoever their GM was before Omar Khan, because number one, they didn't have the nuts to say, you know what, we're gonna draft somebody behind Ben before he goes. Instead, they waited to draft Kenny Pickett in a very bad quarterback draft class when the year before they could have had Jalen Hurts behind Ben Roethlisberger. And I'm going to blame him,
Yeah,
maybe for not realizing or maybe forcing him to say, hey, if you get a quarterback, I'm going to leave. What are you going to miss? Your 5 yard out routes? They got you what? A first round exit? And I'm going to praise the Ravens here for you saying, you know what? We'll have Joe Flacco, but we'll draft Lamar Jackson because we've seen what Joe maybe his potential is at this age. And we know what it is. His potential was maybe getting you the playoffs, and that's it. He did it with the Browns, got him the playoffs, and what happened? Lost the first game. So I just, they like I'm with you. Kind of accept that you're not going to be the same team. I mean, this is the same Steeler fans who they wanted Mike Tomlin gone. So I'm not sure how much better it's going to be. Um,
yeah,
I just feel like they're grasping for stuff, and this team, it could be all blown up by mid-year. As just a neutral, not as a Ravens fan, I wouldn't be surprised. They could have fighting. You have Darius Slay on his podcast. Pickens and DK fighting over targets. Russell Wilson not picking up his phone because he's with Sierra. Um, I don't know what else, but it
yeah,
just I could see it blowing up. Like the Jets. Of last year, I could really see that happening. All the talent in the
yeah.
world.
Over 160 people watching this episode 300 of the Purple Rain Cast Live. Shouts out to all 161 of you watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming through. Make sure you like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hop over to YouTube and like and subscribe to the video and the channel. If you're watching on X right now, we love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Same goes for Instagram as well. But listen, to kind of piggyback off your point that you just made there, I think it was a great point. Um, if you like, and we can applaud the Ravens for drafting Lamar Jackson when they did before Joe Flacco really was a goner, right? But I think you have to ask yourself this question: if you are an NFL GM, is the ceiling of my quarterback less than a conference championship? If the answer to that question is yes, it's time to go find the quarterback of tomorrow. Quite just as simple as that. If we cannot get to an AFC championship game or an NFC championship game, whatever, in whatever respective division you're in or conference you're in, it's time to go out and get a guy who can elevate you to that level, right? Who has a higher ceiling than that. But there comes a point in time in all of these quarterbacks' careers, minus Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
And all of these quarterbacks' careers where you can just kind of go and say, okay, yeah, that guy and his current performance, like Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example. Just a few years ago, he winning MVP still, right? But now you question whether or not he can win you a 1 p.m. game against the Dolphins, or somebody. Just like you just don't know. You just don't know. Like so, if the ceiling is that clear, like okay, clearly he's not going to be the sole reason why, or not even the sole reason, but like the biggest reason why we make it to a conference championship game. It's probably time to go ahead and just move on. It's probably time to go ahead and move on. And the Steelers are having a very hard time with that right now. I don't know what's up with them trying to invest in all of these bridge quarterbacks. Like you swing with Kenny Pickett, right? That didn't work out. Take another swing. Take another swing. It's not like you only have 4 or 5 more years left to win a Super Bowl. Hell, 10 more years. I think that the NFL is going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah.
A very long time. So like, just go ahead, rip the Band-Aid off now, get your quarterback of the future, and just go from there. Just go from there. But it's just what they're doing right now. The current formula does not seem to be working. And again, I'm glad we've got Lamar Jackson. I'm
Yeah.
glad we've got Lamar Jackson. That's the biggest thing. So yeah, big shout out to Cam the Baptist. What's
What's
going
going
on?
on, Cam?
Cam is in the house. Giving a shout out to the hashtag replay gang. That's right. If you're not watching this episode 300 of the Purple Rain podcast live, hello. Appreciate you for coming through. And you're part of the hashtag replay gang. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel as well if you do enjoy what you're currently consuming. We'd appreciate that. Let me see. Okay. So let's see a couple other things we want to touch on before we get out of here of this episode of the show. Still over 160 people watching live. Again, thank y'all so much for coming out and rocking this episode. I think this is the first episode in almost a month. First live episode that is in
Yeah.
almost a month. So yeah, big shout out to y'all. We will be live here a lot more in the coming weeks. So a couple other things that happened, a couple other things that went down in free agency. Some things of note. Right. Well, just recently, the Giants re-signed Darius Slayton, 3 years, $36 million. That just happened maybe 5 minutes ago. Commanders are holding free agent Michael Gallup. The Commanders are making some moves, aren't they?
Yes, they
Commanders
are.
are making some moves. Went out, got Laramie Tunsil today. Left tackle for Jaden Daniels now. Debo Samuel is a new addition. They got rid of De'Ami Brown. I believe De'Ami Brown is with the Jacksonville Jaguars now, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so I mean, they're making some moves right now. There was a full like kind of comprehensive list of all the transactions they've made. I can't seem to find it right now, but
Yeah, it is, and you got to think about you. This is just your first offseason with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. After knowing what he can do, so you're gonna now have the prospect of guys wanting to come play for you because this guy's so good, like you see with other quarterbacks in the league. So I'm not gonna sit here and say he's gonna have a drop off. Sophomore slumps are a real thing, but you got to think about the future and how exciting it is. You're gonna get more. You're gonna attract more of these premier guys, when they put in a trade request, well, you might jump up higher because you have him because guys don't want to play against him like we see. So if I'm a Commanders fan, heck yeah, I'm excited. They're addressing the needs. They're bringing back guys that really made a key splash, like a Zach Ertz last year, who I thought was a great signing for him. Bringing him back, getting Debo along, to have with Terry McLaurin. Yeah, like you're trading De'Ami Brown for Debo Samuel. Like, of course you're taking that. And who knows what they do in the draft? They can draft receivers, so good for them. Um, Definitely a good time to be a Manders fan right about now. Apparently, you are frozen with no audio right now. Yeah, that's not good. Oh, not good. Guess I'm here now. There you go. Hope so. Let's see. Let's wait for it. Oh no, it just shows you blank, man. Shows you blank. Well, guess you're telling us to cut it short today. Well, thank you for coming through this free agency frenzy episode of the Purple Rain podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. As always, stay positive, test negative. Don't forget,